It's Julia Renee.
And Kendall Aaliyah. Welcome back to the Know Your Power podcast. Hello. Welcome back.
What's up?
Julia's a little bit in pain today.
Yeah.
She flinches randomly.
I
That's
know.
why.
I was
feel
like
so bad.
standing, doing my makeup, like all the weight on my right foot.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, ow, now my right leg hurts and I can't shift the weight to my left foot.
Jiu-jitsu? Is that what it's called? I just drew a blank. Jiu-jitsu is really...
I know. I just did it. I
body.
did it to myself. I did it to myself. Last time it was my shoulder, and then that could be adjusted by my chiropractor. But this time, I think I sprained my left ankle.
Well, I hope you get better. I'm so sorry. You sound like a little zombie. I think. We're starting this episode with a Julia story that you included to the intro. I want to hear all about it and how you feel.
Yeah, I forgot. I was at the gym the other day and I was doing legs, and I've had like a couple people come up to me since I've been single.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people like, no one really knows. Like, I mean, I was even on like a flight to the Arnold and saw some people from Austin, and they were like, "Where's Zach?" And I was like, "Oh, we're not together." And then they went, it was really funny. They were like, "Well, then of course he's not here." And I was like, "Yeah." It was really funny. But because it's been 5 years. It's just been such a long time, me and Austin. But I was lifting, and there was these two guys that were like next to me, and I just realized that I don't know how to do this. Mm-hmm.
That's why I want to hear your perspective.
I don't know how to do this.
How to be single 101.
Yeah, like I don't know. I don't know what's normal and what's not. So I was finishing my set with hip thrust or something, and one of the guys comes up to me and he introduces himself, and he starts chatting, and he just says like, "I just thought you were really beautiful. Like, could I get your Instagram?" Aww. And I was like, what do I do?
Did you give it to him?
I did. Okay. I was like, I mean, whatever.
See, for me, Instagram's like a little more disarming than like number.
But that's what people do now.
Yeah.
Which is, I sound so old.
Back in my day.
Yes. It was like you ask for somebody's phone number, but now it's Instagram. So I'm like, okay, this is one thing that I'm like, okay, this is new. Didn't know this. Mm-hmm. This is new. And he says, like, "I just thought you were really beautiful. I was wondering if like I could get your Instagram and maybe like we could get a lift in or go to brunch."
Brunch is so cute.
And I was like, wait, what?
Wait, brunch is for the girlies. What do you mean?
I know. I was so like, it was so weird because I've had a lot of interactions before that, from like the time that I've been single.
Yeah.
And the first one it was okay. And we talked for a good amount of time, but every single person that I talk to, I'm just like I'd be really honest with them. I'm like, I'm really just not looking for anything right now.
I feel like just being around you and seeing like certain men interact with you as well, like you are beautiful and like you have a crazy physique, and I feel like sometimes people come at you really aggressively with or feel like entitled to your time or energy. That's just like as your friend standing there being like, this guy needs to back up from my friend right now. So it's good to see like a wholesome interaction or hear like good interactions.
This was I think the most wholesome out of the ones that I have received in a long time. Mm-hmm. There was one, remember before, honestly, and I haven't seen that guy since, where he was like,
he switched gyms.
That was when I was engaged, and he was so nice, and he like was playing the long game. And then when he finally asked me out, I was like, "No, I'm sorry, I'm engaged."
Yeah.
And he was like so respectful. "Oh no, I respect that. Didn't mean no disrespect."
Yeah.
And I was like, "We could be friends, like just see each other at the gym." And he's like, "Totally, totally." That was the nicest one since. All the other ones that were after that, something ended up coming up that was like, "Oh, that's a red flag." Like one of the guys was being like, we were chatting and we were being nice, and he was like, works somewhere else, but then also works in Austin and spends 2 weeks there and 2 weeks in. I'm like, you have 2 families. That's probably what's going on. You know,
where's your wife and
my
kids?
true crime mind was like, you have 2 families.
For sure.
And then made like a comment about like, oh, then you could cook for me, right?
Oh.
And immediately then I was like, no.
I was going to ask you, just because like you had started dating Zach and gained like your following or like quote unquote fame is what we'll call it right now. Like in that relationship, but this is your first time also dating, like having a platform where people might already know who you are or stuff about you. Like, do you feel a level of like nerves or protectiveness more than you did back then because people might know more details about your life?
Yeah, I mean, like even that one guy who came up to me almost starting in the middle of a conversation.
Yeah.
And I was because in my head, nobody knows me still.
Yeah.
I still truly believe that when I am walking around that nobody knows who I am. I'm just, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So someone came up to me and he started... it was so
you told this one on the podcast, I think.
Yes, yeah. And that one was so wholesome as well. It was just strange the way that it started there, where I was very confused. And he's like, I wanted to, come up and, just tell you how much of a badass I think you are and how strong and you can lift some heavy weight, but I didn't want to because of a story you posted.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to seem like one of those guys. And I was, I was going, wait, I went, first of all, wait. I was like, you follow me?
Yeah.
Because then that would make more sense.
Or lead with that.
Yeah,
like lead with like, you. I've seen your Instagram.
Yes.
Like something instead of being like, when you said that one thing, and it's like, when have I talked to you?
Yes. Because like, for example, if I was here chatting on the podcast with the girls and a guy came up to me and mentioned something from the podcast, I would go, how did they find that?
Yeah.
I would literally go, how did they find that? Even though it's so public.
It is public, but yeah, it does feel like a small world.
It's
and
weird.
That's why, like, I don't know, part of me like knew I didn't want to date a bodybuilder or like super gym forward guy because I was like, I feel like I'm too connected to a lot of that space, especially like the fitness scene in Austin is very small. Like every gym I go to, I see at least one person I know, So I felt like that's why I intentionally was like, let's find someone not already in this space or like at least not as involved as I am so that I know for like a fact that they don't have a preconceived notion of me or like know people that I know in that space.
It's so weird because I think to answer your question, I do feel very nervous and scared about when that time does come, which is definitely not anytime soon.
So no brunch with this guy.
It was just like, it really made me realize, like, first of all, how I don't know what I'm doing. Second of all, people brunch and give each other Instagrams. And I was like, wait, what? But he had so many green flags in comparison to the ones previous. Like one of them just came up to me and I had my camera and he says, I would do anything just to follow you around with a camera all day. And I was like,
okay.
You would do anything to follow me around
with
that's
what
I
I'm
just
saying,
said it right back and I was
direct.
Like, okay. And then I just kept doing
so uncomfortable.
And then another one with you can cook for me. And I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
What a weird opening line.
And then this guy, he was very sweet. He actually knew nothing really about bodybuilding whatsoever,
nice.
And he was actually looking me in the eye. I hate it when guys don't look me in the eye. They keep darting their eyes to the left. I am my father's daughter. My father will stare into your soul when he's talking to you. And I do that when I'm talking to like my friends or like guys, and they're always like,
intimidated,
like looking away. And he looked me directly in my eyes. He actually asked questions about me.
I love a confident king.
I've had some guys come up to me and I'm just standing there and they're talking that was another guy that just told me all of these. It was almost like he was pitching. This was a different guy pitching himself to me. And I was just like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you. That's great. So great.
Oh, I do this and that. And I won this thing. It's like, okay.
I was like,
didn't gather any of
I'm
your
Julia, by the way. But yeah, it was like, and I know there's always like people that get all weird about people coming up to you at the gym. And I do understand that. I've been on the other end where it's like, it is really weird and it's very uncomfortable. So when there are interactions that I do have that maybe I am not in a place to date or whatever, but they go about it in a way that is kind, and I want to just like say it at least, but I generally don't know what I'm doing.
So wholesome. I want you to keep updating us as the podcast family, because I remember when we posted the episode about your breakup, multiple women in the comments were like, I'm in such a similar position right now. So I feel like you talking about like getting used to talking to the opposite gender and like possibly opening your mind, or like getting, or even sharing that you are uncomfortable or a little nervous. Like, I feel like so many people will relate to that, because I remember like after my first like real true relationship, I was like, what do I do now? Because I felt like I was so young when I got into that, where like, I feel like high school, college relationships are also so different than like adult relationships. Not that like the dynamic or love is different, but I think like the way you meet people and the way you have to interact, it's not like you're meeting someone in your class anymore, or like who goes to your school anymore. Now it's like out in the wild, and you have to like find if your interests interact. And I feel like that's why I never mind meeting someone at the gym, because like it is at least common ground where oh, we both love doing this hobby. You know?
And there is the part of me that genuinely is fearful of dating anybody that isn't a bodybuilder, because they won't understand. Because a lot of my relationship with Zach, there was times where I did feel like the thing that I love is a big reason why.
Word this correctly.
I want to say,
I feel like I get what you're saying.
I was brought to feel like the thing that I loved was one of the reasons why I was hard to love. So I fear finding somebody else that doesn't get it. But then also it's like, okay, well then you can think about the other end, where would it be better to find someone that has no idea and bring them into the world and they have no attachment to it? Because I see like you and Koopy, and he has like,
he knows nothing
about it. He's not super like down and like emotionally tied to it like we are, but he's so supportive also. So
I get that.
And then I have your mom who's also like, never date a bodybuilder ever again.
I think it was just my mom seeing my experience with like an actively competitive bodybuilder who just like was out of his mind, and I think not a good person unrelated to bodybuilding. So I think it was easy to tie those together, where there's some amazing, sweet, down to earth, like find yourself a Sam Sulek of the bodybuilders.
Seriously.
Or exactly, you could find someone in a different industry. They can teach you about what they do, and you could teach them about what you do. And if it meshes well, it meshes well. But I think it's like, I don't know. The right person will come.
I mean, definitely not looking. But
well, it's still so
it's
like
interesting
fresh.
to see what is out there and how people operate now with dating, because before I had blinders on. Like the blinders for the person, just the person that I was with. So I didn't really catch things as I normally. I didn't see them because I had these other like relationship glasses on, and now I'm like seeing and noticing things that I didn't before.
You're like, oh, people's intentions is sometimes to date me and not just to say hi.
Just like, sup? Like, I don't know.
No, I get it. And you are like a very warm, welcoming, like friendly person when someone does say hi to you. So I feel like, I don't know.
A scary
I want to hear all
there.
about. I can't wait for you to like. And I know this is not yet, but when you do go on dates, like come share the stories with me, please.
I will. And there's parts of me that want to like share the like a whole dating like series on social media, but then there's the aspect too of I do have a platform on social media. What if these people do see it?
True. You could do it in like an anonymous, like not super specific way.
So it's almost, I think, because I have a social media platform, for me, it's actually less scary to give somebody like my phone number rather than my social media.
I kind of get that. On the flip side though, if someone asked me for my Instagram when I was single, I felt more like, oh, I could give this to you and I never have to follow you back or message you back or anything. And like, sure, it's a public platform. I'm not privated. Go for it. While like a number felt like, oh, this person could call me, they could text me. If I don't respond, I'll have to block them. Then it's like, that's how I always viewed it. I never minded giving Instagram out.
Yeah.
But I get that.
Yeah. Because as soon as like they'll ask for my Instagram and I pull it up, they're like,
oh.
And I'm like,
no, I do get that.
I'm like, yes, I share a lot of my life on social media. You gonna be cool with that?
My biggest pet peeve is when I give someone my Instagram. This could be like literally one of Cooper's like cousins.
I should make another one.
And they'll start scrolling in front of me, and I'm like, please stop.
Please do that when I'm gone.
Like they'll pull up a photo, they'll zoom in, and I'm like, I know, I've seen it, I posted it, and I'm really embarrassed now.
It's so weird.
That's my least favorite thing.
Yeah.
I also want to do, I actually, based on, because you had this written before I wrote what the episode was today, I was like, it would be fun to do like a relationship based episode or two, just like talking about our experiences or like navigating dating as a fitness person or a bodybuilder. Yeah. So maybe we could wait on that, but that is an episode I definitely want to do.
Yeah, let us know, guys. Like, do you want me to continue talking about this?
Because I've been listening to so much. I reintroduced myself to Call Her Daddy recently, and she interviews like people of all these different like niche backgrounds, and obviously they're all famous, but like hearing their dating history and like and how they navigate it with their jobs. Like, it's all really interesting. And I was like, we really never talk about like that side of our lives. So if you guys want an episode on that, I would be down.
Especially because neither of us were in that phase and didn't think we were going to be.
Yeah.
And now I am unexpectedly. And it's like, oh, okay. I feel like I'm just like relearning.
You're learning. It's cute.
It's weird. I don't like it. Boys are scary.
Boys are scary and gross. Anyway, today's actual episode.
And gross to our male listeners.
No, I'm kidding.
We love you guys.
I'm kidding.
We do have
grew up with brothers.
Male listeners that I've met too. And one of them really loved the little sparkle sound we used to do. And I literally told him, I was like, I completely forgot we used to do that. And he goes, yeah, bring the sparkle back.
Maybe we will.
Which one was it?
I think I want to say pink or red.
Okay, you guys let us know if that was correct.
Wait, turn it off just in case.
Oh, it's off.
It's just the cricket sounds.
I know, we do the cricket sounds again. Fuck my foot.
Are you okay?
Okay.
Maybe don't sit on it. Maybe cross the other leg.
Okay. Now just sit like this.
Okay. Anyway, today's episode, thank goodness for timestamps on YouTube. So sorry to the Spotify people who came for nutrition advice and just got 20 minutes of us talking about dating. How long has it been?
Basically.
Yep, basically.
Oops, sorry.
Today's episode is what we eat to get shredded and why. I recently started bodybuilding prep, as you guys know, and I get so many questions or just DMs with people being like, why do you choose this carb source? Why do you choose this protein source? Is there a reason? And I just wanted to talk about, because we haven't done a nutrition episode in a while, just like our staples in prep, why we eat certain foods. And then also I added a list of all the things we absolutely avoid. So you can add what you eat into this, though I think most bodybuilders eat very similarly, which is why I wanted to go into this, because I was like, it's not just me eating tilapia and veggies. It's a lot of people eating tilapia and veggies.
And there is like a reason behind it. Kind of like, I always get the question of, why do bodybuilders all use the Stairmaster?
I just got that one yesterday
and
too.
It's like, okay, because we need to preserve as much muscle mass. We want to do steady state cardio. So there are some things that kind of stay the same.
Yeah.
And then...
There's honestly, the outliers are like people who do if it fits your macros. If you're doing a meal plan, like it's pretty standard.
Yeah. And I'll explain like what I've done this past week, because I started prep on Monday. So I've kind of switched things.
We're both prepping.
We're both on prep.
That was a good high five.
That was a good high five.
So yeah, we can talk about your diet versus mine, because they might look different too. And especially me being like a gluten-free, dairy-free girl, I have to cut certain things out year round, who like maybe you could fit into your macros if you're not allergic to things. I wanted to start with the fact that you need to find what works for you. So even us talking about what we do today and a lot of these things being staples for a lot of bodybuilders, one of these foods or multiple of these foods might not work for you. Mm-hmm. So every time I do like a meal prep or meal plan video on like my YouTube, there's at least one comment who's like, I could never eat this. Then don't. That is totally okay. I'm not telling you to eat what I eat. You don't have to season how I season. You don't have to like do the same quantity that I eat either. Everyone is very specific to you and your body and your journey. So I want to start with that. As long as you are in a caloric deficit and eating foods that work well with your digestion, then you're going to be set. So a lot of these foods are picked based on digestion and also based on being a little bit lower calorie so I can have more of them since I love a good food volume.
And I think that is really huge because what I noticed from last week when I wasn't on prep, and this past weekend was my last weekend of eating with friends and stuff like that until we're locking in. When I was creating my new meal plan with my now calorie deficit, I have 3 different meal plans. I have one high carb day on a Saturday, and then I have moderate calories, which is still a deficit, and then really low ones on my rest days. So when I was making it, I was like, okay, let me just make it, but with the same foods that I have been eating. Yeah. And I just realized that, I'm getting to my calorie mark a lot quicker by eating these foods. So because they are higher calorie, but it's less food. So I was switching a lot of things out so that I can have more volume and feel fuller for longer while in a deficit versus having like my bagel in the morning. It's like, it's a little bit higher in calorie, but if I had that same amount of carbs with oats, I would be fuller for longer. So just that was some things that I started switching. I think
some of it is visual too, where I don't know if you feel the same way. Like I need my plate to look somewhat full because there's a certain point in prep where like your actual protein source might take up like 1/10 and your carbs might be like 1/20th. And like that just feels very sad to look at and to eat. And like I feel like we eat with our eyes a lot of the time, where if our food doesn't look like it's going to fill us up, it's kind of like 2 bites and you're done. So filling up the rest of my plate with veggies, with healthy fats, like trying to still fill it out or pick carb sources that, like what you're saying, could just take up more room mentally and physically, keep you fuller longer. Because I think like the act of eating is part of it, which sounds kind of funny unless you've done a prep, then you're like, I get it. Because anything I could have more of, I want to have more of.
Exactly.
So I completely agree. I follow this one. Actually, I don't think I follow them, but they come up for me all the time, where they do like 200 calories and show like 10 different examples. And that's such a good way to visualize it. Cause like you could have like half of a donut, or you could have like this whole bowl of like chicken, rice, avocado. Like it's fully dependent on how you want to structure your meal plan. But that's why we do pick some of these foods, is because they can keep us fuller longer and look larger.
Because one of the most challenging things that people struggle with when they are cutting is the hunger. So if you are eating foods that keep you fuller for longer, then that hunger is a little bit less. There is going to be a point where you just have to, suck it up. This is the name of the game. But if you can like extend that period of time, why not?
Yeah, I completely agree. We're going to start with fruits. This is, I'm going to be so honest, my least favorite part of my diet. I don't know why. I love fruit in my off season, but when I'm in prep, I'm like, what a waste of calories right now. But there are so many benefits to them, which is why I keep them in. My fruit of choice is usually blueberries. I feel like they're easy to digest. They're high in fiber, high in antioxidants. They are supposedly good at aiding in digestion. I don't know how true that is, just based on my blueberry research.
And
then obviously like the vitamins and like etc. that come with fruit in general is always good to have. So
they're pretty like low in calorie in comparison to other like fruits. Like for example, we have categories like any type of berry, not any type, but most of them, say raspberries, strawberries, and blueberries. You'll see a lot of people who are bodybuilders or in a cut using those 3 because you're still getting your fruits in, which is something that we want. I do see a lot of people like cut them out.
So that's what I was going to say too.
Like I have fruit until like basically peak week, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it might be because like fruit, it has carbohydrates, and at a certain point you got to get low.
And certain sugars. And I think a lot of people in a serious cut or weight loss journey are afraid of sugar.
Yes.
So I was going to say that too, as I was going to say, and then I'll let you finish your thought. I'm sorry. It says, talk about my fruit fear because of 9th grade health class. I'm not kidding. They showed us this video on how our body metabolizes sugar. And I gaslit myself into being like, no sugar for the rest of my life. So I like cut out fruit. I was afraid to eat it.
Did they show you that little pyramid chart where it says you're supposed to eat fruits?
I think we just completely disregarded that, and this video scarred me because I was like, fruit is going to make me fat, and I like convinced myself. But it is a common thing where people view it as like, that's just sugar. You like, why have sugar in your prep? But it does have all these other benefits, and like obviously berries over like maybe an apple, which is like a
even
lot.
like banana, like those are they're good fruits to have, but they are so much higher in carbohydrates, and when you are in a deficit and your carbohydrates are limited, it's like, okay, would you rather have kind of like that video, this giant bowl of berries for say 50 grams of carbs, or half of a banana, you know what I mean? Or
true.
Exactly, but it is a lot of like volume. How much more can we eat for a smaller amount of calories?
Is berries or blueberries like your choice too?
Yes, either strawberries or blueberries.
I don't think it was even a choice for me. I think that's just always what my coaches have had me do. So I'm like, I guess this is the best option.
Yeah, it's also kind of like what I prefer.
Same. Actually, I hated blueberries, but now I like them. I think I convinced myself.
Yeah, I like the jumbo ones.
I don't. I want them as small as possible. I love the jumbo ones. I think the smaller ones are more sour, and I'd rather have like a sourish fruit. Really?
Gross.
Sound off in the comments. Are you pro jumbo or pro tiny blueberry?
When they're sour, I get so mad, and I want to throw them away, but I
See,
don't.
the big ones are too like squishy for me.
Well, they're not squishy. They have to be hard. And if they're not
valid.
Last week I got some that were the jumbo ones, and I didn't do a squish test, which I usually will do a little squish test. And I came home and they were like wrinkly and squishy.
No, I hate that.
And eating them was like, ugh.
I'm not the type of girl that usually care about things being organic, just not how I was raised, I guess. Yeah. But I usually buy organic blueberries, and this last grocery shopping trip I didn't, and they were not good.
Really?
So I'm like, maybe organic fruit is worth it. Anyway, moving on, going into veggies, which again is a huge point in a bodybuilding prep or a serious cut for that volume's sake. So this is when we're talking about like adding volume to your plate. If you notice you're eating your meals and you're hitting your macros, but you're like still really hungry in between meals, or like you're satiated for maybe like an hour and then you're really hungry again, I would suggest looking at how much veggies you have in your diet, because like veggies has been my go-to forever. I always make the joke that I turn everything into a salad, but it's so true. Like if I'm having chicken and rice, I'm putting it on a bed of lettuce. Like whatever will make my food bigger and also keep me fuller longer, like we keep saying. So lettuce honestly isn't my top pick because it does bloat me. But the benefit of that, does it not bloat you? I hate my stomach. It's just reactive to everything. And
you also
lettuce is okay.
You have to consider too, like things like cucumbers and lettuce, like they have water, which water is going to help keep you fuller for longer. So whenever I'm feeling super like ravenous, I know, okay, let me add a little bit of like some lettuce or some cucumbers or something.
Cucumbers number one on my list, to be honest, because that doesn't bloat me, even though it is also watery. I feel like I digest it really well. One of my favorite tools, YouTube is sick of seeing me talk about it because every video I'm like, look at my favorite tool. It's that thing, I don't know how to explain it now, where it has like a grid and you place your veggie in it and you just kind of like slap it down.
Of course I have that.
I'm obsessed with it.
It's so fun.
And I'll do like a whole thing of cucumber and I constantly keep it in my fridge because if I'm not going to make a salad out of like traditional lettuce, I'll like make a cucumber salad and add that to the plate. So that's one of my favorites. I also love green beans. I love asparagus. I feel like people think they need to do broccoli because that was like a very talked about chicken and broccoli is kind of like the standard bodybuilding like bro meal. But I just don't, I'm not obsessed with broccoli. So I don't have it.
I do like broccoli, but what I have found is that it tends to bloat me. Like broccoli, sometimes cauliflower rice
That
does
bloats
as
me
well.
too, yeah.
And it's like especially when you're super close to a show in peak week, if you guys watched my peak week meal plan and stuff like that, you saw me eating a lot of cod and cucumber because it was the least bloaty thing that I could possibly eat. Every time that I ate it, my stomach looked exactly the same. And that's what we want.
Do you remember my really gross carrots?
Ugh, those are disgusting.
So on my meal plan, my last peak week I did, we found carrots because I had done a Viome like right around peak week. So I got feedback on like what the best vegetables for my gut health was. And carrots were like a superfood for me. So we swapped all my veggies out for carrots for the last few weeks, which honestly my body responded well. But when we were in South Carolina, right? When we were in South Carolina, the only grocery store by us was a janky grocery store.
Sketch.
And it was like the grossest little wet carrots.
It was like
I've ever
this
seen.
grocery store. It was like where all of the reject groceries go.
It was scary.
You know what I mean? It was so, we were in there and we were like, and Ian is so like snooty about food, which I love.
Yeah.
And he was like, he's basically like, I can't get anything here. No.
Well, I was also at that point in prep, you're just, I'll eat anything.
I was like, I
do
just
not
literally
care.
don't care.
And my carrots had like a weird white substance on them, possibly mold.
It was like a film. Yeah. It had like
I
a
had to
film
wash them.
and she had to wash them.
Anyways,
it was disgusting.
Good times. So carrots are also like, I haven't had them on my list yet, but those might be introduced at some point because I know they don't bloat me. I think the key.
I'm surprised you haven't talked about corn lady.
You know, I love corn so much, but like it's not nutrient dense literally at all, so I've actually like mostly cut it out. I will sprinkle it into some meals if I'm like really needing my corn. Popcorn too. I think like that's the only thing I currently miss. Like I'm not having cravings yet, it's so early on, but I'm like, the fact that I can't have my daily popcorn's making me really sad. Any form of corn. So yeah, I've taken corn out for the most part. I don't want to say entirely in case I do definitely have it in a meal and someone's like, hey. Anyway, just finding veggies that don't bloat you, that keep you full, that add volume to your plate, I think is the key here. Moving into carbs, this is where I feel like most bodybuilders might differ from each other. So I'm curious what your current carb sources are. For me, it is strictly, I have this memorized, but I just scrolled. So give me a sec. Okay, for me, it's strictly sweet potato, gluten-free oats, and rice. Those are like my 3 carb sources right now. What are yours?
For me, it's usually jasmine rice, oats, and the Chex rice cereal. That's what we found, like what works best for my tum-tum. I'm trying to think of if there was any other ones. Oh, for a while I was doing cream of rice.
I did that last
at the beginning of my prep. But again, what I started realizing was volume, where I love cream of rice, but the amount that I was getting was so tiny in comparison to how much that I could have gotten if I swapped it, for oats. Of course, there's going to be a calorie difference and stuff, and you have to adjust that. But at a certain point, I was like, I'm getting really hungry, and this tiny ass bowl is not, it ain't doing it. So I swapped it and kind of maneuvered other things around.
I think I'm going to be, not for another like month or 2, but as I really have to cut calories, I think oats might be cut back one of my first, because it's great right now because it keeps me really full for a long time. But I am not someone who can eat like plain oats. So right now I'm using like sugar-free syrup with it, cinnamon, salt. But eventually I think I want to take that out because it does, while it keeps me full, which is a plus, I do feel like it's not great on my digestion. Like so that's staying for right now.
But like if I can't have oats with a scoop of protein powder or something, which I still don't really like to do. Because I like to have my protein powder on the side. Or if I can't put any 0 calorie, if I can't do any of that, I ain't gonna have it.
I might take your hack of the cereal because I feel like that's also like,
I think your stomach would like it.
Because I eat that in my off season, but I think the act of like having multiple little things to eat too is
like your blueberry theory.
My blueberry theory. Okay. Any other carbs that you have? No? I was just going to add, like, I opt for just anything easy to digest. I do have my higher carbs surrounding my workout. We've talked about that before. You want to properly fuel your workout and also retain as much muscle as you can while in a deficit. So like kind of sandwiching my workout in between my 2 highest carb meals is how I like to treat it. But besides that, I'm not super particular. It's just these are the carbs I enjoy and I have them year round. So I just keep them while cutting. Just lower volume, obviously.
Especially when you are in a deficit, it's good to, if you're like making your meal plan or something, kind of starting with those meals that are pre-workout and then post-workout so that you know, okay, I have enough energy surrounding this training session. Now let's work out from there because you don't have as many calories to play with. So
I also notice I get really hungry after a workout, even if I'm not hungry before it. So I like try to really focus on that pre-workout meal because like if I go into a meal fasted or like on pretty low food, which sometimes I like to do because it feels good, I notice how hungry I am post-workout. So I rather just structure it where I know I'm getting some calories in. Even if I burn a bunch during my workout, I'm not going to be like starving right after. So that meal timing can be pretty equivalent on either side. Moving into fats, for me currently in my plan, my only 2 sources are whole eggs and avocado. First week I had peanut butter in there and I very quickly went, maybe not my best choice.
why?
Just because I love peanut butter so much. So if it's in my fridge and I keep seeing it or in my pantry and I keep seeing it, I'm more likely to be like, another spoonful wouldn't hurt. It will in the long run.
Or you stop measuring it and then it's crazy how quickly 1 tablespoon turns into 2 when you're not measuring it. Like 1 tablespoon is not a lot. And that's usually the serving size. So it can, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah. That's why I was like, I'd rather take this out now than feel dependent on it or look forward to it every day that when I have to take it out, I have like,
I'm sad.
like a negative reaction, which it's not that serious at all. So those are my 2 choices. Both of those are like very healthy fats. You can have a decent amount. Eggs are it's still a protein source, but they are pretty fat dense. So I opt for avocado more so throughout my meals because I feel like you can have a decent amount of avocado for like still not a crazy amount of carbs and fat. Do you have any other fat sources?
Mine are avocado, peanut butter still, and then later, most likely not. Like I only have a tablespoon a day. And then egg yolks and olive oil. So olive oil isn't something that I choose to put in now because it is so calorie dense, but it's something that usually gets added into my program later because there are certain foods that aid in doing other things. Olive oil can help aid in digestion, actually make you go to the bathroom. Also things like you'll see a lot of bodybuilders eating asparagus. I can't remember the word. I guess asparagus kind of act like a natural, like a diuretic, right?
I've heard that.
You know what I mean? Where people are like, my pee smells like asparagus because asparagus help you pee a little bit more. So there are certain foods that I put in later that help with things.
Makes sense.
And olive oil is one of them. But right now I'm like, no, I am not wasting those on olive oil.
I tried doing the math and I also hate how olive oil tastes. Hot take. Not a fan. Yeah.
I love it.
I don't think I grew up eating a lot of Italian food, which is usually like olive oil based, but for some reason, like olive oil on its own, or like when I can really taste it,
on its
really
own,
grosses
it's gross.
Me out.
But if I like sprinkle it over, like I'm just thinking super simple, where I would have like my cod and my cucumbers, and I drizzle the tablespoon over it, and then I put some pink Himalayan salt. That was everything.
I remember that stage for you.
I would lick the plate of all of the oil residue.
I'm
not letting a drop
But same,
go to
I've
waste.
always had this in my plan at a certain point. So like when I take certain fats out, that is usually the substitute in.
Yes.
Going into protein, which is arguably like the most important one, and I feel like the most standardized across most bodybuilders. My current takes are lean ground turkey, lean ground beef, tilapia, and egg whites, and obviously the whole eggs, but I'm counting that more for the fats. I was doing chicken I get the chicken ick semi-often. And the last 2 times I got chicken from HEB, something was wrong with it. Like I had to fully throw it all out. So I was like, I'm taking a break. So I switched that over to ground turkey. I just try to keep like 2 or 3 really lean sources of protein, 1 or 2 maybe a little higher fat content sources of protein. So the higher fats, obviously the ground beef and the eggs, the whole eggs. And then the leaner is the turkey, the chicken, if I have it in my plan, the white fish, the egg whites, just because you can have more of it. And obviously, again, we want to have as much food and volume as we can for our macros.
Yeah. I typically opt for, I would rather have leaner proteins than have a fattier protein like salmon or steak or beef, not because I don't enjoy them. Trust me, I enjoy them, but because I would rather add fats in with avocado, with peanut butter.
Makes sense.
I would
peanut
rather
butter,
do that. Yes.
Ground beef.
Yeah, I'm like, I would rather, I'd rather have that. But one of my actual, you saw me eat it for my pre-stage meal. It was like a certain amount of salmon, and he would have me put a certain amount of salt in there. So we're getting salt and we're getting fats from the salmon and the oil. And then I would have like on the side my bag of rice check cereal. And this is just something that really worked for me I don't know why, but it did. And right now I'm having chicken and shrimp. But later is when I'll switch to almost all cod.
Yeah. At a certain point, I mean, cod or tilapia, both are very like light white fishes. I've been doing tilapia for right now, also starting to get the ick from that. So might switch it to cod soon.
Tilapia is just a little bit fishier to me than say cod.
Yeah, it is.
Because cod to me is a little bit more like quote unquote clean, like buttery.
I
don't know.
Saying.
It doesn't
I agree.
smell as fishy, but it still is pretty fishy.
I mean, it is fish, so I would imagine. I was going to say at a certain point, that's like all I eat, but I wanted to add like, you can have variety in a cut, and you should have variety in a cut, because the last thing you want is for every meal to be so repetitive that it's not enjoyable. Like I know there's so many, when they show like boy bodybuilders versus like girl bodybuilder meals where guys will mix like oats, ground beef, broccoli, it's all in one thing. Like I don't give an F. Like I'm just here for the macros. I, on the other hand, really enjoy food. I love food. I want to still have variation so that I can look forward to certain meals where like I love my breakfast. I love my last meal of the day. That's when I have my higher fat protein. So I like look forward to that. I do love ground beef, which is why it's in my plan, even though I only have like 4 or 5 ounces of it. Because then you can look forward to those things. And like meals shouldn't feel like a chore. It should still be somewhat exciting, and still season how you want to season, and like try to fit foods in. If you digest them well and they fit your macros, like why not? You can still play around. Obviously not for like the last few weeks of prep, but we're talking like generally you're just trying to lose weight. You can still keep certain foods in as long as it fits your calorie deficit. I want to go into a little bit of the things we like completely avoid while in a prep or in a serious cut. This is again going to look different for everyone. And it also depends how serious and how far you are from your end goal or result, because I know some people who have great metabolisms that can keep any of these foods year round. I'm someone who needs to cut them out when I get like serious about my weight loss. Obviously for me specifically, gluten and dairy, I just never have. I'm very intolerant to them. They cause me enough pain where I'm like, I'm good. But besides that, some things I cut out completely are alcohol, because honestly, it just feels like a waste of calorie. Don't enjoy it that much anyway.
Not worth it.
Full sugar sodas or any other sort of like sugary drink. Like you're not catching me getting like an icy. Like that again, I hate drinking my calories most of the time.
No.
So I rather just drink water and like the occasional coffee or energy drink.
Like even... This sounds ridiculous, but even when I do have like a free meal and I'd say I get a burger and fries, I will still get like a Diet Coke or something like that, because I'm like, it's just now ingrained in like who I am, where I'm like, okay, I'm eating these calories with the burger, but I ain't gonna waste the calories on a full, on a Coke, I'm just gonna do the diet. I'm saving a little bit, That's where my brain goes.
I'm the same way. And now like full sugar tastes weird to me, where I'm so used to aspartame.
Yeah, I know.
Where I'm like, sugar tastes odd. Like even I had a full sugar Gatorade not that long ago, and I was like, this tastes awful.
I can't even remember what they
I'm not a fan.
like.
I grew up drinking those though. The next thing on the list is anything really calorie dense, like snacks and desserts. For example, cookies, chips, cakes, ice cream, like just anything where, again, if I rather have a huge bowl of whole foods than have like 2 cookies. So it's that weigh your option thing. I know a lot of people can make it work with if it's your macros and like sugar-free cookies. But again, I rather just stick to like more whole natural foods at this stage. Another thing, which we had both said, was really fatty proteins like salmon or high fat beef, which you can introduce if you're taking other things out. But for right now, again, I just want to add fats to my other meals. So I rather not get all of my fat sources from protein sources. And then the last thing on my list that I could think of was just anything fried. Again, just like higher calorie, higher carb, higher fats. For not that much payoff.
Yeah. And
I don't like how fried food tastes most of the time either.
I like Cane's. Like if I'm going to have like a fried food, Cane's I think is like
Cooper
my favorite.
Loves Cane's.
Freaking love Cane's.
I can't have it anyway.
Their sauce is the best special sauce that's on this planet.
I can't have it currently, but maybe I'll put it in like the comments or the description or a story. I found like a lower calorie cane sauce and I made it because I always wanted to try theirs. It was really good and it's really simple, and I'm not going to say it right now because I'm probably going to forget like a crucial step, but I'll definitely post it somewhere or send it to you. It was really good though. I also saw there's this one guy who always comes up on my Instagram feed who makes like healthy alternatives or low calorie alternatives to foods people love. And he did Chick-fil-A sauce. And I was like, I do love Chick-fil-A sauce.
And it's just, what's crazy is once you start, measuring your food and looking at nutrition labels and like being more conscious of like what you're eating and how it makes you feel and the amount of calories that each thing has. Kendall and I definitely love like our free meals and stuff, but it does start making you more aware of like, oh wow, like I was having this on a regular basis. You might have thought you were in a caloric deficit, but you're actually not because you're eating 3 tablespoons of peanut butter, which you didn't really know.
I love sauce so much. That sauce is one of those things that like I have to cut out completely at a certain point because like I will just go overboard. So like currently for me, the 2 staples like in my fridge or 3, I guess, because I just bought sugar-free barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
I always forget the brand. It's the one with the guy on it. Yeah. And his sauces are great and they are like very low calorie, so I can fit them for now. Mustard and hot sauce, because all of those are just very low in calorie. But I'm someone in my off season, I love a salad dressing, I love an avocado sauce. Like all of those are a little too calorie dense where I do cut them out pretty early on because I know how heavy handed I go with sauce. But that's one of those things, exactly what you're saying. You might have that little packet of sauce and you're like, oh, I'm just eating it with my food. It's not adding anything when that little thing is like 200 calories. Which is crazy.
And it's like in the grand scheme of things, like, okay, don't freak out over this little 200 calorie sauce. But if you are in a deficit and your goal is to lose weight, think about all of those moments throughout the week that you're accidentally doing that. So then when you total up those extra added calories, say you do that 3 times, that's 600 extra calories. That could be putting you not in a deficit and you're wondering why you're not losing weight. And it's like, it's this whole thing. So
I talked about this in my most recent prep video where I was like, a habit I didn't realize I had that I have to break right now is like, while I'm cooking, I'm so the type of cook to like taste my food. Or like if I'm scooping out all my rice and there's like a chunk left over on my spoon, I'll eat it. But those are little habits that do add up. Or like I've talked to so many mothers who, while they're making their kids food or like packing their lunch, they'll take little bites here and there. And again, like it might sound so obsessive to cut those things out, but at a certain point, especially if you're in bodybuilding prep or taking your cut really seriously, you have to. It is still calories in,
Very, very true.
So that's my habit I'm trying to kick.
I think that is a really big, like when you're talking about things that like we avoid, there's like the bodybuilder sauces and stuff like that everybody talks about. And that is another thing that has just been become like a part of who I am, where I'm like, okay, I'll get the G Hughes zero sugar barbecue sauce. I'm having the zero sugar, ketchup, Cholula, Tabasco, Frank's, like there's a reason why that you see a lot of bodybuilders eat these, so that they could have their food have some flavor without having a, Chick-fil-A sauce in their fridge that they're just, and you don't realize.
It tastes so good, but so calorie dense.
Yeah, trust me, is so good. So it's just things to consider.
Yep.
And now it's just become like a habit of mine, where now when I just go out in life, I think about those things, where even though I'm going to Kava or something, I'm like, okay, I want this to be as filling as possible. I'm going to start with doing a bed of lettuce first.
Yep.
And then when I'm choosing my rice, okay, that's a carbohydrate. How many scoops do I want? Okay, I know that about a half a cup is about, like, this is where my brain will go, about a half a cup. And then I say only one of those spoonfuls. So then I'm getting the same amount of carbs that I would have gotten with if I had like a meal at home, and then going on with the sauces and the dips and the stuff. But that awareness comes once you're more aware of how much food you're eating, what you're eating, how it makes you feel, and maybe checking a nutrition label once and again.
Yeah, I think like that's why, as someone who was intuitively eating for the last like several years of my life, I would still randomly track a random day, because it's good to understand like how, and get a refresher, because sometimes you are like, oh, this is just a tablespoon of peanut butter. And it's like, oh, it's not.
Yes.
So I think just like once in a while, weighing out your food, measuring your food, tracking it in MyFitnessPal, just actually gauging how much you're eating, because then you don't know where to cut from there, or what is calorie dense until you look at it. And some people really don't know how to read nutrition labels. So that's like something that I feel like is just a nice skill to learn, like learn what the important numbers are, how to read it, look at serving size, recognize if you're having double or triple that serving size, because knowledge is power, and then all experience. I've
definitely been tricked by labels too myself, because say that I go to the grocery store and I'm looking at like the quote unquote lower calorie snacks, me and you love that aisle. And you'll get like one package. And if you look at the nutrition label, you're like, wow, I'm going to eat all of this for this. And you read it and it says the actual serving size is 2 of them.
Yeah.
And there's 4
the whole
in there.
Bag.
So you're thinking, you know what I mean? And it takes that little extra look and being like, oh, it's saying that on this pack, this whole pack looks like it's 200 calories, but that is 1 serving.
Yep.
There's 2 servings. So it's like,
I was heartbroken over my coffee creamer.
Yes.
Literally the week before starting prep, I was like, okay, let's measure out. Like I just put it on the scale and I poured it how I always do. And on the back, it's like 10 calories. And I'm like, okay, let's do the math on like how many grams I just poured. And I was having like 150 calories worth of creamer every day, because I love me some creamer. And it was like a half a tablespoon is the serving size. And it's like, I'm not having half a tablespoon. I love my coffee to be mostly creamer.
Yes. So then think about that. That's an extra 150 calories a day for
mostly
7
fat
days.
And mostly carb.
It adds up. And I know that people are probably listening to us and be like, God, you're being so, about every little thing. But at a certain point, especially if bodybuilding is something that you're looking to do, it's important to know this information, because that is how granular things get.
Yeah.
There is no room for mistakes.
Yeah.
So
that's why I like started off this video, and I'll end it with like find what works for you, and find what a calorie deficit is for you, and what foods you're willing to sacrifice yourself. This is just pretty standard for a lot of bodybuilders, because again, volume and like satiation matters a little more than like taste of food at a certain point. So that's why you see so many bodybuilders having very simple meals with like a veggie source, a carb source, and a protein source, and maybe like a tiny bit of fats, because that's how we structure all of our meals. And I just like to cut snacks and desserts and things like that out, because I rather have another full meal than like a small portion of a snack.
And you've kind of heard, like me and Kendall both being bodybuilders and being on prep, things that are more important to us.
Yeah.
Where it's like Kendall is like, I would rather have my fattier meat at the beginning of the day and the end of the day. Like that, I just love it so much. And me, I'm like, I would rather have chicken, shrimp, and then use my fats and other things. So this is just, we are eating relatively the same foods, but it's like, what is your priority? What's going to make this as enjoyable as possible for you?
Yep.
And I even tell some of my girls that I'm coaching, if it fits your macros, I'm like, you can fit literally the things that you want. It's just about, okay, would I rather have like this one little cookie and savor it and enjoy it at the end of the night? And for some people, that's like, yes, 100%. I'll move everything else around. Me, I'm like, nah. I would rather have a giant bowl of Greek yogurt, a whole apple that's in it, mix it in with my like built Puff bar. I would rather have that than that one little cookie.
I'm the same way. And then I do think that comes with practice, where we've just been doing this for so long that we like recognize what's important. And then I agree that like it might sound a little bit insane to someone else.
Yes.
But once you compete, it's like different. And even when I do casual cuts, even if I'm not prepping for a show, I still treat it the same way because I like how my body responds to these foods. And just cutting out processed stuff in general just typically feels better. Our bodies are not made to like have extremely processed refined sugars all the time. So just using them sparingly. Like I still have a cheat meal once a week right now, or a refeed if you want to call it that, where I do get a little bit higher calorie, and I am still strategic about it, where like I'm not going to have
Saturday.
Yeah, me too.
It's like a higher calorie day. And on that day, like I have more wiggle room with calories and stuff. So I fit in more stuff that I like that I can't on those other days.
Yeah, same.
So hopefully it works really well. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
But that was a good episode.
It was.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about nutrition in a minute.
I know. Let us know what you guys want us to talk about next. Maybe it's on the nutrition aspect as well. One of the ideas that I had was like pre and post workout nutrition and meal timing. I have a whole like outline that I teach my girls in the Know Your Power program on that. So let me know if that's something you guys want to hear about. But as always, we love you all so much, and you're more powerful than you think.
Bye.